What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode at the Warehouse Underground podcast, real talk for warehouse, DC, and FC professionals of all levels around the globe. I'm Ben, the host of the show, and some of you may not know that June 9th is National Forklift Safety Day. And I happen to know some people who know a lot about forklifts and lots of other equipment and services and technology. So Derrick Miller, who's the senior sales manager at the Raymond Corporation, is my guest on the show today. Now, this will be the second time that I've had these guys on the show, so hopefully they consider themselves a friend of the show. I certainly consider them a friend of the show, but I'm really excited to talk with him about the latest and greatest that's going on at Raymond, all of the solutions that they are providing, and really what is going on out there in warehouses across the country, because they are very well connected with the realities of what operators and managers are facing today and where they come in as a partner and a solution provider to really help them. So I'm excited to have him on the show. And with that, I will bring him on the stage right now. Derrick, my friend, thank you very much for joining the Warehouse Underground podcast. How are you today, man?
Doing good, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you got it. So I want the audience to know that we are recording the show on a Friday evening. So let there be no doubt about our commitment and dedication to bringing the goods and bringing the good stuff for the listeners out there when it comes to things in distribution. So Friday evening, here we are recording the show. So thanks for doing that, man. Thanks for taking the time.
You mentioned friendships between Raymond and us. That's why I'm here. It's for you, man.
I got it. That's how boring my life is, right? I'm 45 years old, so I'm no longer at the clubs. I'm much rather be right here talking with Derrick Miller about some stuff going on at Raymond. So absolutely. All right. So everyone, Raymond, a huge player in the industry, right? Everyone knows about it. Everyone knows about Raymond. And in the spirit of National Forklift Safety Day, can you talk just a little bit about, high level upfront, Raymond's general philosophy, right? The general overarching philosophy on empowering operators everywhere around the globe, as I have listeners around the globe, empowering operators to really work securely. Can you talk to us about that overarching vibe and feeling that you have towards that?
Sure. So I think Raymond's philosophy, high level, is to just really keep our finger on the pulse of what customers, the distribution centers, the employees, the managers need in terms of what they're seeing. The dynamics of the distribution landscape changes daily. And so for us, we view ourselves as the partner in enabling a successful operation, assisting operators with doing the best they can, whether they've been at that facility for 5 years or 5 days. And ultimately, once we identify and help customers understand what's happening and their needs, then we tend to back into products, services, whatever that might be to help solve that problem. So really, I think the most important thing in philosophy that Raymond's got today is just really knowing what's going on. And we find that out through feedback of our customers, through shows like this, our network of solution and support centers. They're in the customer facilities every day and really just trying to make sure we've got that mechanism in order to make sure we're helping solve that customer problem.
Yeah. And one of the things that I see out there going on in the industry, and I'm sure operators who are listening will agree with me when I say this, is that it just seems like today that the pressure grows bigger and bigger, right? The pressure to perform, the requirements to do more with less, which is a figure of speech I hate, right? But to do more with not necessarily less, but just more variability, right? More variation, more changes, more things on their plate. So is that kind of the general vibe that you're getting from a lot of the customers out there? Because for me, where I sit, I feel like that is the reality of distribution ops in 2026. And maybe it was not that way 15 or 20 years ago. What do you think on that? Because I feel like that's what life is like for a warehouse or ops manager out there today.
I would not disagree with you. So,
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for long enough to have seen that transition, and there was this weird, COVID thing, that really accelerated and changed the landscape. But it is this thing where not only is the dynamics and the landscape changing within a warehouse, but from one customer to the other, maybe who their competitors are, right? So one day we might be overnight shipping. The next day we might be carrying full pallet and we need to change our racking. The next day there might be a facility that opens up down the road and there's competitive pressure for labor. So there's just this constant change. Every day is a new battle, right? Or a new battle plus the one we didn't solve yesterday. So it stacks up.
Yep.
But we are seeing this constant change, and it not only does it hit the operations management teams, it's hitting the leads, the clerks, the lift drivers, everyone, right? Because everything flows in one direction or the other operationally. And so we're seeing even more this interconnectedness of change. Or it used to be, hey, the way we work with our supplier changes, but to the operator on the floor, they see more or less no difference. Not the case anymore, right? Everyone's aware of the dynamics of how the facility is changing and the commitments that customers have made to their customers. And they see that, whether it be, one day I'm doing order picking and the next day I'm in a swing reach, or one day I'm a clerk and I'm being asked to be put through lift training for the first time. So there's a lot of change going on. And that variability requires a lot of fast motion, whether it be educating your teammates and keeping them up to speed, whether it be, we've got new ship commitments. So we've got to enable technology in order to increase throughput while maintaining kind of operational cadence. And that would maybe align with that more with less or more of the same mentality. So it really just depends. And every customer is different. Every customer is in a different stage of their life. They're doing a different type of business. If you drive down the interstate, people see a facility and yeah, there's a warehouse, but we all know that what's going on inside that warehouse is very different from the one sitting right next to it. So we're just constantly trying to figure out what the customer problems have, knowing they're all unique, and how do we even partner with them? Where do we start? Usually it's identifying the problem first.
Yep. Now I appreciate you saying all that. And I like the warehouse underground was started. One of the reasons why it was started is because there was this constant feedback and feeling from some of the leaders, many of the leaders in the industry, that like, hey, people that are not in here don't understand this. They don't understand the reality of what's really happening, right? We kind of getting fed this one thing with all these assumptions, but it doesn't match the truth of what's happening at the ground level. And that's one of the things that kind of grew this site in popularity, just kind of speaking to those folks, and those folks speaking back to me. So it sounds like Raymond's right there too, right? Like that's right where you are in terms of like cutting through all the junk, right? All the fluff, and really getting down to, hey, what's really going on here? What are they really going through? And what do they really need, in order to help them be successful, and where can we come in? Right. So I love that. Is that a true statement? I feel like we're right there aligned.
5 years ago, we may have said, hey, ex customer, I've got this product for you, right? And usually it didn't scratch an itch for that customer, but the dynamics have become so variable that for me to come in and say, hey, Raymond offers these 20 products. Well, that doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. And it doesn't necessarily help your operation. So from our perspective, it's, build a relationship. Let's walk around the floor together and point at your pain points. What's keeping you up at night, and let's back into the problem. And then ultimately it may lead with a solution, right? So what we may say, Raymond can, or maybe Raymond can't. Hopefully Raymond can help you solve that problem in one way or the other, or we can partner together to solve it. But we're not going to lead with that because we wouldn't know. Everything is so variable. Derrick's not going to walk into your facility and say, yep, that's the solution. We're going to have to land on that the problem together before we land on the solution together.
Yep, absolutely. And I remember I mentioned in the beginning that this is the second show that I've done with Raymond. So Keith Ingalls was a previous guest on the podcast. Check that episode out if you haven't. And that's one of the things that we talked about too, is that it like every operation is different, and they might look the same from the outside, but when you really start to peel back the onion, the life for the manager in this building can be different from the manager at this building, and they're not they're not looking to buy equipment. Right? Like they're not necessarily in the market for equipment. They want solutions, like they're trying to run their operation. And so I think you're really onto something. So I think, is it fair to say that? I mean, is that a fair assessment that, hey, when we start to talk with these operators out there and these leaders and these managers, like we realize that it's not just, it's going way past we want to buy a piece of pit, so we're calling up Raymond. It's like we really want to figure out a wholesale solutions to make my operation run and efficient, and the equipment and services and frankly, wherewithal and knowledge that Raymond provides is really what they're looking for, is what they're really looking to buy. I mean, is that a stretch, or is that kind of statement?
Yeah, no, Keith and I are very close in that mentality, right? So where he may go off on the Raymond lead management perspective because that's what he does. I very much sign up for that as well, right? If we don't have an understanding of the facility and the opportunities of maybe what we can do with what she already has, right? So I don't want to just walk in and say, okay, we're Raymond, you have a reach truck that's hit about the right age, let's give you another one. We want to say, like, hey, based on what's going on today, your operation has probably changed 12 times since you purchased that piece of equipment. I mean, maybe replacing it is perfect, or maybe the only reason you were using that piece of equipment before was because you were doing your operation or performing a task in this way. Maybe we need to take a step back and see if we can optimize that process and standardize that process and make that process as efficient as possible. And then let's go back and say, is that a piece of equipment you need? Or maybe you need that one plus a piece of technology, right? So the solution isn't always what the solution was before. And that's where the partnership comes in, right? So Keith probably, I can probably give you Keith's presentation because we've co-presented at trade shows together. So I know what he said, and I'm sure it was spot on. But optimizing your opportunity, optimizing your operation is the first thing we want to do. Then again, let's peel back the onion and figure out what the problem is. It's certainly just tossing a piece of forklift equipment, whether it be the best in class or not, doesn't matter. We still need to make sure that our product is the best fit for the problem you have today, not what the problem you had 4 years ago.
Yeah. And it gets to you hear this mantra a lot. If you're on LinkedIn a lot, like I am, just due to what I work on, you hear the thing, well, people are always say, we always did it this way, or we've always done it this way. And that's a very, very bad word in today's distribution industry. No one says that. And now so I think what's happened is you get all this new stuff that came online, right? Like lean initiatives, and a lot of companies have lean consultants and they have lean people on staff. And then you get these big time fulfillment centers that everybody knows, the Amazons of the world and Target and Walmart. Well, they turn over their staff. So those leaders that were ops managers, area managers, whatever at Amazon, they leave, and then they go propagate other companies, right? Like other industries, and they bring that philosophy with them. So now you may have just had this traditional type warehouse that was just stuck in, well, we need a reach lift because we've always picked that way, that type thing. But you get these new people come in and they're like, no. We need to change the way that this is designed, that this is looked, and there's a better way to do it. And, here is the new piece of equipment that we need to do this, not just, we've got racks we pick from them so we need a cherry picker, right? Or an order picker, I should say. So, definitely, I think, and we talked a little bit about before the show, but the industry's moving so fast. It's just moving so fast. Every year it's different, and it's really starting to accelerate. So, I like the way that you go about that solution.
And I think it's easy. It's just to scale up, right? Like we did it this way. Our volume is doubled, so let's throw 2 times as much at it, right?
Yeah.
Twice as many trucks, twice as many people, twice as many shifts, twice as many drivers, twice as many clerks. You get it. And I don't. That's where you do have to take a step back and say, okay, where were we? Are we still on the right path? And if not, what path do we want to be on? And we have to plan and design the ecosystem with our customers to make sure that that path is flexible, because you're going to get another curveball, especially if you're a 3PL and your customers change over, or your product mix changes, or your the fulfillment goes from B2B to e-com, whatever it might be. Your journey has got to be flexible, but you got to know where you're at today and where you'd like to be. And then that helps us work together to plan, chart a path to get there. So it may be the same exact equipment. It may be more different dock doors or some other technology, especially with the turnover in management and turnover of employees, just making sure you've got consistency and that mantra, that plan, that journey continues to move through the organization, even if leadership and employment changes.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the only thing constant in distributions change, right? I mean, that's just that's just how it goes. So now let me ask you this question, Derrick, about maybe some of the I don't want to call it high tech stuff or high level tech stuff, but maybe some of the more advanced type things that are accelerating, that are happening, that are being developed. I mean, they're everywhere. Are these being adopted by big, fast, well-known distribution and fulfillment centers kind of only, or are things like that, solutions like that, technology like that, making their way down to the mid-tier or even the small warehouse type operation? Like, what do you see in terms of that type tech and that type propagation of it down?
So yes. So
Yeah.
we're seeing the bigger companies, obviously they help define what some of the market needs. They have the volume that pressures themselves and us as their distributors to manage, develop, enhance, change our technology. And no, I don't see a lot of mid-tier companies just wholesale saying I need it all. And I think one, because they don't need it, two, on whole, because our service centers and Raymond corporate in conversations with them have steered them away from that, right? Because every operation has the right mix of solutions. And so you may have pharma who really needs X, but if you're low level order picking e-commerce and you're using a low level order picker and you're pushing just volume, or your local distribution where you have 5 different cases going to 5 different retail stores, the technology completely changes, right? If someone's on a center rider versus if they're up in the rack with an order picker, totally different technology. And a lot of it does come down to maturity. So it's not just the question of do they need it, but are they ready for it? So it's okay. Everyone can be somewhere different on their journey. So that you could be ready for it all. You could be the smallest, lower volume customer, but is on the cutting edge of sophistication. You've used data, you've been driven your operation with data. That's how you make decisions. You could be ready for it all, just like the big guys out there, right? But it's totally okay if we're still just talking about putting telemetry on there for access control and to certify certification and look for impacts, right? So maybe that's where you are, maybe you're over here, but it's our job to really figure out where you are on that technology maturity curve and make sure it's the right fit for the job you're doing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. And like, let's say, like I have many warehouse managers who follow me on LinkedIn and follow the podcast and the whole thing. And I know from working in facilities that are like that, and I'm sure you probably do too, that a lot of them, the smaller type things, they have their legacy lifts. It's forklifts that they've had in there for a long time. A lot of sites will name them. That's Bertha. That's Large Marge. That's George over there. Whatever the names of the lift are. I mean, they've just been running forever. So if I'm a manager and I'm at a place like that, but I'm iffy about upgrading, right? Because it's like an old pair of tennis shoes that are very reliable that I trust. So I'm iffy about just jumping into the pool of the latest and greatest and the hot new stuff. And I'm not sure about that. Is there a middle ground for me? Is there an option for me where I still want to improve the security for my operators, right? I still want to move forward in that, but I'm not ready to go the whole way. So is there a middle ground where I can upgrade my current, Big Bertha and Large Marge and my old lifts? Can I upgrade them, or is it best for me to just say no? You need to get rid of, you just need to get a new car, right? Like you need to get rid of this old thing, stop putting all these mods on it and the whole thing, just get a new car. That's better for you. Like what, and that's kind of a hard question to answer because I'm sure it depends, right? But what do you think about that? Is there a middle ground out there? Is there a solution for people that like their old stuff, that want to keep their old stuff? They just want to get a little bit better. They're not ready to go all the way.
Sure. So first story, I was in a distribution center a few months ago, and speaking of the old truck that's in the corner, a gentleman had it. That was his lift. And he had a picture of his kids, right? Every year, school picture every year. And I think just looking at that lift, I saw his daughter progress from second grade through high school. So that lift was there for that long, right? So that would be, the breath in that corner that may not be quite ready for the most up-to-date technology you just tossed on it. But no, I think we're very mindful of that. And I do think there's a spot that will help find for those type of operations as well, right? So Raymond, if we look at our technologies and what we do, we have some stuff that is really integrated in our lifts, a lot of truck control, right? So we'll prevent you from lifting if you're not properly tethered in with our tether product. We have laser detection. So if there is an obstruction in front of you in path of travel, it would alert the operator. We've got other technology, real-time location sensing. Some of those are designed very specifically for newer lifts, right? Because they're like the brain, if you will, of the newer lifts are designed intentionally to have inputs to control older lifts. A lot of our customers have mixed fleets, right? So we also offer solutions that are not only applicable to many ages or vintages of trucks. We can put stuff at our 15-year-old, but we can also put them on non-Raymond equipment. So of course,
cool.
What that technology is, we have more or less, capability. Obviously, we build more capability in ours to control our own equipment than others, but certainly there are technologies that we offer. Telemetry, for example, we've got field sensing detection. So that could go on any piece of equipment that's, magnetic based, does not require it to be a Raymond piece of equipment, that does proximity detection. So that could go on there. Telemetry, I said that already, but going back to that, we can still provide access control. It can still check for certifications. It can still measure for impacts. A 20-year-old forklift still registers an impact just like a new one does when it accidentally runs into a baller, so we've got technologies like that. And so we do have things that can assist folks that are saying, like, I'm a little bit hesitant, like you said, I'm a little bit iffy, and I'm not really quite ready to, I'm dabbling, right? I'm dabbling in technology. I'm not deep and most people that are in that position, we would never encourage you to dive in the deep end. It's a lot, big investment. And for us, we value data as well. So that's a lot of data. A lot of our products do produce data for digestion to help improve the operation. They're designed to help the operator, enable the operator, reinforce good behavior. But it also provides data to the management team to understand, where are my opportunities to go train? Where are my opportunities to go, maybe perform maintenance or change how I pick my picks so that I eliminate congestion, whatever it might be. So if I throw too much hardware on there right away, I'm overloading everyone, both the operator who's never seen this stuff before. Now they've got 12 things beeping at them, but also got a lot of data. And as a new operator or a new ops manager who's not familiar with managing data, it can just be too much. So this is a crawl, walk, run mentality. But certainly if you're iffy, there are certainly products that we can align with that keep it simple, provide value. And then as you upgrade your fleet over time, maybe we say, as you upgrade, just like the journey, just like maybe your next solution or your next problem results in a different technology. So when you swap that out, when it comes back, it doesn't come with the same thing on it. So it's just a conversation.
Yeah. So what about that though? I mean, speaking of the data and the things that you create, I mean, what about it from from the manager's perspective? I mean, yes, the person driving the forklift is going to benefit from a lot of these features and a lot of this functionality, but what does it look like for the manager? I mean, what about things like, tracking, dashboards, KPIs, metrics? I mean, that's the flavor of the day for ops managers today. It's no longer just, well, are you good on the P&L? Is labor okay on the P&L? How's the revenue? I know. I mean, they're managing the way more things now, including things that they can get from the forklift. So what does it look like to them? I mean, is there do they have pretty good visibility? Are they happy with what they're seeing? Like, what's your feedback from the managers who are kind of seeing it on the back end on a computer, I guess, if you.
Depends on the manager. So
Always
the data is power, but data takes time, right? So, and any ops manager I shouldn't say any, but almost every ops manager I've seen in a warehouse, I'll be with you in a minute. I got to run and take care of this thing, and I got to run and take care of that. There's still fires and operations that need to go handled. So what we do is we provide a lot of our data, or telemetry data. It gives us equipment utilization, whether checklists were properly performed, whether, and almost like a leader management light, right? I can see that Derrick was on the equipment for so long. I can see that they did or did not properly log off. I could see if there was an impact. You name it. We can make recommendations with whether the truck should be kept in service or not. So the data is there. The question is, as an operator, as a manager, how much time do you have to look at it? And so that's what we spend a lot of time, is trying to figure out. We're collecting a lot of good data. Everything I just mentioned is off of telemetry, let alone, our object detection. That tells us when the detection system took over in lieu of the operator. Or it tells us when someone, or smart tether, when someone wasn't properly clipped in and attempted to lift, right? So operator behavior reinforcement, but that all provides data. And some of them provide alerts, right? If there's an impact, you're going to get an alert on the spot as an operator. So Raymond is constantly looking and saying, okay, we've got all this data, but unless the operator finds value in it and can use it to make changes on the floor rapidly, then is there actually value? And so we have been working really hard to create personas, right? So you go into the data, you can see like maintenance, and then really try to distill down these actionable insights for maintenance. I'm the ops manager. I'm a lead. I'm the DC manager. Really just trying to figure out how to give them these quick, actionable insights. And if they want to dive deep, they can, but how do you make it quick? And we're continuing to add technology. All of these technologies tend to add data. And we're still trying to, how do you give more, but keep it just as simple? So we've been working on that through what we call the Gateway. That's our data platform. But we also have professional services. And we've been finding that that's been very valuable, because Raymond, we can come in and bring professional services in, whether that be someone who's good at analyzing data and giving you data insights, or maybe it's calling Keith Ingalls and saying, hey, Keith, we see something in the data. Come on, help us figure out how to lead management this thing. But so we've got that, but we have that at Raymond Corporate, but also our service centers. So a lot of our service centers today have their own independent professional services groups and service groups and lead management groups. So as we're seeing these things in the data, and they're partnering with you to review the data together, they can come out locally. They're not coming from Raymond Corporate. They're coming from Carolina Handling or Associated or Raymond West or whomever, and they're local, and they can pop down there maybe this afternoon and take a look. But from an operator's perspective, a manager's perspective, is we need to keep it digestible for them. If we can find value, if it becomes that they have to step away from the operation to analyze, it's not as good. Data is a gym membership, right? If you don't go to the gym, you can have a membership all day long.
Yep. If it, trust me, I know. If it takes too long, not going to be adopted, not going to be used, because it's just fast moving ball game in there, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I agree with you 100%. Now, I can't do a show these days without asking guests about robots, because you go to a ProMat or you go to a Modex, maybe not so much now. It used to be more. It's kind of lightened up a little bit, but robots everywhere, all over the show floor. the feedback that you hear from people is, I didn't know I was going to a robotics show, the whole thing, right? I know you've heard this before about that. Just the eye candy's everywhere. But, what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about robots? I mean, do you think that people should jump on the robot train? I mean, do you think that is the wave of the future? Is Raymond a player in that? Do they need to be? Is the end user not want it? Are they not hearing things from where do you come down on robots? I have to ask you about it because it's sort of all over the industry right now and everybody wants to know.
Somehow I had a feeling you're going to ask this. So, so you're right. I mean, I've been to the trade shows over the last several years as well. And there's some pretty impressive stuff out there.
It is.
What we're finding in our general customer base is that our customers, for the most part, have interest in some of that advanced technology, but I'm using my hand deliberately this way because I want that customer journey. And most of them are like, okay, we're getting operator assist technology, right? We're working on improving throughput while maintaining ergonomics, which could be like our advanced product, or we're looking at educating employees in a simulated fashion through a virtual reality simulator. These are very fundamental things. And like then maybe what comes next and where Raymond is kind of living today is we do have automation, right? Our service centers do conveyor. We've got sister companies that do the same. We have automated tuggers, auto swing reaches, things like that. Our automation today is basically designed to aid, enhance, and automate some of those kind of regularly recurring, well-known, repeatable tasks, right? The stuff that once we've optimized and standardized your process, we can simplify through some automation. But Raymond is, and parent companies we're constantly keeping our eye on advanced technologies, inclusive of robotics. But I think a lot of our customers say, that was cool until I started to turn back into the implementation cost, the integration cost, my contract terms with my customers, and whether I'm going to get an ROI on that. And today, frankly, one feedback I've gotten from a lot of our customers is, I can get the robot. It's everything that I need to do technology-wise upstream from that robot to get what it needs to do. I mean, we see that even with just our automation, which is known standard equipment, just automated. Now we've got something else, and you're tying it into a WMS that might be 14 years old.
Yep. And that's the part that people miss. I mean, I think people miss that. People miss that because you're right, because you go to the show and what you see on the show floor is just a demo. It's just a demo. I mean, it's programmed to do that. It's not fulfilling real orders. It's not handling the stress and the variability of day-to-day ops and all that unpredictability. I mean, that's the hard part, right? Like that's where it really happens. It really happens inside the computer, right? To use a very bad Zoolander line there, inside the computer.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. Any Zoolander fans out there? But that's the hard part. And so but it seems like to me, and I could be wrong on this, right? Like I can't speak for every facility across the country and what everybody's doing, but for me, what it kind of seems like to me and what I hear is, the robotics and everything is fantastic, but it's like going to a big car show like a SEMA. I mean, you go to one of those and they have all these incredible futuristic cars and new tech, and everybody walks away and they're like, I want that. But the majority of what you see driving down the road is what? I mean, it's just like a Chevy Malibu, Nissan Maxima, just cars, right? Like just regular cars that people use in the real life, in the real world. And in the facilities that I've been in the warehouses and DCs that I've been in, that's kind of what it was like too, right? Now there are some out there that have the latest and greatest stuff and everything, but I don't think it's nearly as much as people might think when they walk away from a trade show, a ProMat or Modex. But again, I could be wrong. I'm not expert at that.
Robots is a broad term, right? So if we're talking robots, like I'm vacuum picking something up and dropping it all day. I'm thinking when you say this, and I'm probably the same. I saw a robot that picked a box and then did a backflip, right? Like that's the type of stuff that I'm thinking, right? And so
I
Sure,
need that.
sure. If that's, everyone's operations are changing. So if that's what's required to satisfy the operational reality for a vast majority of our customers in 10 years, I'm certain Raymond will have investigated and talked to customers and figured out if that's a real need and figured out how we kind of scratch that itch. Just not seeing that extreme. However, Raymond's position so far has been, if that's where you see yourself in 10 years, let's plan for it now. If you're going to re-rack a project, if you're going to put new racking in, let's make sure it's automation ready so that it meets the specs of an automated swing reach, or, the turning, if you're going to put conveyor over there, make sure there's the turning diameter. Doesn't mean you have to put the conveyor in, but just make sure you got the end state in mind and then back into your planning. Still figure out where you are in your maturity curve. Maybe you're still just ready for telematics and a tether, or maybe you're ready for us to throw some automation in there. It's okay. And regardless of where you're at, that's okay. But if back flipping robots is where you're going to be in 10 years, Raymond will help you plan for that. I'll tell you right now, we do not offer directly robots, but
I'll
appreciate, the type of infrastructure that you might need, some decisions you might need to be thinking about, in order to have that journey, right? That path.
Yeah.
And maybe, and again, you might be at step 2 and that might be step 20, but at least let's make sure you've got a path to 20 and that everything you do leading into that all works together at the end. That's not hodgepodge it. Like, that's a cool WMS, that's a cool conveyor. Let's make sure that it's planned seamlessly enough that the integrations are clean, because I think that's the biggest future to think about, is not the device, not the technology of the brain in the device. It's how all the devices interact together. And that needs to be part of your biggest plan.
100% agree. And I think that gets overlooked all the time. And, like I say, if it works, if it provides value, if it hits the number, if it reduces costs, guess what? People will adopt it. If it doesn't, they're going to try it out for a little bit, but that has its limits and it's just not going to work. So I think the people that win, just like anything else, right, have to understand what the true problem is, who the true end user is, the warehouse managers out there, and design something that works for them. And if it does, they will use it, right? They will. If it does not, they will not. And it's really probably just that simple, I think, at the end of the day.
It is. I mean, I think you look at Raymond's philosophy, it's, you just said it right there, ROI, finding value. For us, it's making sure that there's value to the operator, consistency in operation. If I've got a product, I can certainly probably, in some instances, get somebody to say, yeah, and just take it. But if they don't find the value, if they don't find the ROI, if they don't find how it improves and makes their operation more efficient, more sustainable, or better for their employees, then I don't have a long-term relationship with that customer, right? So our goal and our philosophy is to be as ingrained with our customers and their operations and the way they think, and it's especially their strategic planning. Yeah. And then the rest of this stuff will just come. But our focus right now, especially with this week coming up, is making sure that we're focused on technologies that have benefit to the operator, reinforcing what is probably a revolving door of new employees, reinforcing good behavior, and making sure that we're supporting with data and otherwise the managers who have to operate those ever-changing people and ever-changing operations.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a good way to look at it, right? So, it's just, doesn't need to be overcomplicated, and it doesn't sound like you're overcomplicating it. I feel like you're right there with your finger on the pulse of just the realities of operation. I appreciate that. So what's the big takeaway, man? Like if you want to leave the listeners with a final thought, right? What's the final thought about what you think about the future of warehouse performance? Like where Raymond comes in, or if Raymond's not in, like, what do you just think about the future of operations and what it means to have a high performing warehouse operation or distribution operation, and where, the technology and the tools come in to aid in that? What's the takeaway in the future look like?
Yeah, I think, and this has kind of been Raymond's adage for a while, is, optimize, connect, automate, right? So
Yeah.
let's figure out where you're at and let's clean it up. Everyone's got a lot of room to clean up. I cleaned up this office right before we had this meeting. Everyone's got a lot to optimize this office. Optimize the opportunity or the operations so that way we're in a place that's very stable, very consistent. And then you can start adding technology and getting value out of that. And usually the focus for our customers and for Raymond as well is how do we assist the operator, right? So how do we make their job easier, consistent, and reinforce good behavior, while at the same time helping the operation drive throughput. So we always think about both of those things. Like if we're going to drive throughput, because that's probably the objective of the customer, how do we enable the employee to do that while, being able to operate the equipment as intended and to get the stuff out the door as accurately as possible. So I think that's our big takeaway is, standardize, start slow, identify your problems, know where you want to be, and then kind of work with us and we'll work on that journey together. But I don't think jumping to the far end with that, like what the big DCs have and say, you got to replicate that. It's probably not the right answer. I think the biggest thing is planning and figuring out realistically where you're at and then just taking the first step.
All right, man. Well, I love it. I think that is a very sage strategy and say a sage advice there for everybody to take hold of. I personally like that, right? I personally like that approach for what that's worth for you. So, well, where can people find out more about you, man? I mean, I know you. So I've been to the Raymond Corporation LinkedIn page, and you're on there. You've given some speeches at shows, so I've seen some of that stuff. But where can people find out more about you and Raymond, and what do you got going on for the rest of 2026 and beyond, maybe?
Sure. So, I mean, everyone can find me on LinkedIn. It is 2026, and I have one, Derrick Miller, but also on the Raymond webpage, raymondcorp.com, you can find there's an optimization tab, automation tab that goes into a lot of detail about some of the things I just kind of dropped in today. I didn't want this to just be me streaming about products, but you can find those in there. We've got solution and support centers all over North America. So there's always one in your backyard. Feel free to pick up the phone, reach out to me, reach out to whomever. But yeah, take a look. But in the meantime, be excited. We've had some exciting recent launches, real-time location sensing, some upgrades to some of our existing products. But yeah, just stay tuned over the rest of the year. You're going to see some enhancements in some of the additional products we have and maybe some sneak peeks on some of the new products that we've got coming.
Cool, man. That's exciting. That sounds like some exciting stuff. So
we'll be busy.
Well, Derrick, I mean, thanks a ton for appearing on the Warehouse Underground podcast. I know, like I said, we work through dinner, so I'm sure you're starving. We're both starving on a Friday night, but thank you again for taking the time and coming on and talking about all this great stuff. Like seriously, like it's some really great stuff, and how you look at it, I love, and how Raymond looks at it, I love. I really think you have your finger on the pulse of operations out there, which appeals to me and the Warehouse Underground and all the listeners and followers, man. So it's awesome. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me, Ben. It's a good time.
Yeah, you got it, man. Take care.
Well, you too. Thank you.
All right, guys, that concludes this episode. Thanks again, Derrick Miller, Senior Sales Manager at Raymond, for appearing on the show the second time with Raymond. Great guests. See them at the trade shows, see them in all your facilities across the country. Really good stuff that they have going on there. Really, really happy and honored to have Raymond on the show again for a second time. So I appreciate that. As the Warehouse Underground goes, please sign up for the community. Over 300 people have signed up for the community so far. In there, we have message boards and networking and knowledge share. And we have some live events that we've already done that are in there you can check out. And we have some future live events that we're working on in the future that you will want to be a part of inside the community, free at thewarehouseunderground.com. Sign up today and check out the other show that I do called the Tiger Team Show. It's with my co-host, Jordan. It's all about life in warehouses, DCs, and FCs, but with a little bit more of a humorous, witty, sarcastic flavor to it. So if you guys work in that industry and you listen to the show, you will get it right away, the humor and the things that we were talking about, and you will really appreciate. So check that show out. We just released episode number 10 2 weeks ago. Very, very funny. As this podcast goes, I will see everyone next week for another episode. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.